As an American, I eat apple pie, play baseball under its blue skies. As an American, I travel this land and follow her roads wherever I can. From sea to shining sea, I've seen a lot, and none of it will be forgot. And when my country called, I gave my all as an American. I was born into freedom in a wonderful land of mountains and plains, rivers and lakes. Forever American is what I am. A past as rich as any can be. My father's worked hard to give this to me. I love this place I come from. To live another way I cannot foresee. As an American, I eat apple pie, play baseball under its blue skies. As an American, I travel this land and follow her roads wherever I can. From sea to shining sea, I've seen a lot, and none of it will be forgot. And when my country called, I gave my all as an American. As an American, I've been to the peaks of majestic mountains where the air is sweet. I've watched the eagle as it soars in beautiful skies that just can't be ignored. And by this country I'll always stand, for freedom and liberty for every man. When times are hard and things get rough, America always stands ready and rough. As an American, I eat apple pie, play baseball under its blue skies. As an American, I travel this land and follow her roads wherever I can. From sea to shining sea, I've seen a lot, and none of it will be forgot. And when my country called, I gave my all as an American.
Well, welcome. How you guys doing tonight? Well, welcome to Real News Live. Hi, Rodney. Hi, BK. Hi, Nana. Hi, Debbie. Hi, Tia. Hi, Karen. Hi, Richard. Hi, Rodney. Oh, hi, Pam. How you guys doing tonight? It's crazy out there. Crazy watching everything that's happening. Everything that's happening. As we continue, of course, get news of what's happening around the world. The biggest thing is Trump's defense is finally getting a point to, or the judge is allowing Powell to interview the Trump grand jurors in the Georgia case, which could lead to lots of stuff coming out, as we know last week, on the 30th, or last week, not the 30th, but last week. Trump's attorney, of course, questioned the indictment itself because it was coming from two different counties. It was only being heard in Fulton County. So as more information comes out about this, the judge, of course, allowing the ruling today that they will be allowed to voluntarily interview grand jurors with some oversight from the court. But of course, this could lead to a lot more of what actually happened with this foolish prosecution that happened by the prosecutors. And Powell even suggested some grand jurors may have felt bullied by the prosecutor and of voting in favor of charging the defendants. And of course, it led to testifying, testy exchange between McAfee and Charborough. Of course, this is going to lead to a lot more. But it says if they're trying to send people to prison, and they did coerce grand jury members to indict, this could be a lot of problems coming up for the prosecution, not just in this case, but DC and other cases alike. And this shows a lot of what's happening in grand juries around the globe, or around the states, the United States lately at least. Because having a grand jury indict a former president and 18 co-defendants on charges for the criminal enterprise bent on keeping the former president supposedly in power, who supposedly lost 2020 election. You know, because there's a lot of people that testify, though, that there are false votes that got counted. So, of course, questioning the vote would not be a true reflection of or causing coercion or trying to get a criminal enterprise. So, all this, of course, though, is going to come out soon enough as the report, as they do question grand jurors, which indicted Trump. Could lead to a lot more information being released and a lot more transcripts and recordings. We know that the prosecutor doesn't want to turn over information that Trump's or the attorneys for the defense on Trump's side have asked for several times. So, with all that going on and all that unfolding, it's no surprise. I mean, right to a speedy trial. Of course, the trial will begin on October 23rd. So we'll keep updating on this as soon as we get the information, but looks like that case could be falling apart quicker than anything. And of course, polls are showing Biden's lead over Trump evaporated on any poll. Now, Biden was leading just by narrow percentages, but now 44% amongst registered voters, both divided amongst Trump and Biden equally, supposedly, according to this is Democratic poll, a heavy Democratic poll. So them tying now on that, it's pretty crazy. 4% of people saying they would not vote on the survey, which we know is not true. We know about 60% of Americans do not vote when it comes to elections. The support for Biden dipping as Trump's support is uptaking, which is crazy, shadowing 4 separate criminal indictments. It's just astronomical. A sitting president that doesn't stand a chance against somebody that's an ex-president, supposedly indicted 4 times right now. Obviously, there's more to hear than what's actually happening. Yeah, there's a warning that's going to be sent out. I'm not worried about the 4th. I'm worried about the 11th when the new 5G signal does go in alignment. I can't really talk about why, but if you go back to my fictional story I talked about, that's my biggest concern. I don't want to get into it again, but Biden over pressure, the Biden administration has been under pressure for a long time over the border. Biden decided today to grant protections for hundreds of thousands of Venezuelans. We see what's happening in Venezuela. Yes, it is tragic, but yet Biden is trying to do the same thing here now. We've seen, of course, the inside of what's happening on a day-to-day basis. Our lives are being affected daily by Biden's choices on the border. As immigration has overrun major cities such as New York, even ultra-liberal cities like New York are having problems with it now, telling them that they want these illegal immigrants out. But a Biden administration temporarily granting legal status to hundreds of thousands of Venezuelans who are already in the country, making them eligible for work, which is great, but grappling with growing numbers of people fleeing South American countries and elsewhere to arrive in the U.S. via the Mexico border. I mean, we're talking people from China, all military-age men for some reason, Russia, but yet we're granting entry to all these people. Of course, this accelerated work permits for many migrants may appease some Democratic leaders, but that's going to put a lot more pressure on the White House. and the aid for asylum seekers that have been given out, and of course the amount that keeps going up, drastic numbers, Republicans, obviously, and Democrats alike are saying the president has been too lax on immigration. I mean, this is crazy. This grant of temporary protective status is estimated to infect 472,000 Venezuelans who arrived in the country as of July 31st, making it easier for them to work and, of course, get many more key benefits, which is just ridiculous. As mayors and governors across the country are struggling to care for the increased number of migrants in their care. So there's an additional 242,000 Venezuelans who are already trying to qualify for temporary status before today's announcement. So that's almost 700,000 people, almost a little bit more than 500,000 people. It's pretty crazy. Where's our country going to end up at this point? And we know the Democrats don't care. They're trying to cover up for Hunter Biden. House Republicans, of course, were questioning Attorney General Garland, of course, accusing him of favoring Hunter Biden, which obviously, and the Biden family, which is obvious at this point. It's not a question. As we watch the Justice Department, the weaponization of the Justice Department work in the favor of President Joe Biden and his son. The appearance, of course, before the House Judiciary Committee today, Garland, in his first 2 years, and came in an unprecedented moment in the department's history. He's overseeing 2 cases against Donald Trump, former president, facing criminal charges, and another against the sitting president's son. Sitting president's son is getting basically a free pass, while Donald Trump is getting attacked in every single aspect of his daily life. So it's not a fair imbalance of power, that it's not a fair and honest justice system. We're facing a weaponized judicial system against political rivals, and of course favoring political allies. Nobody wants to admit the truth. This is a true problem. This is the biggest problem we're facing today, as the Justice Department, of course, rules everything that's going to happen in the future, because setting precedents today is a precedent that'll be followed tomorrow. You can't have investigating one and protecting president on the other hand. So you can't attack an ex-president at the same time you're protecting a sitting president. The Justice Department's got to cover both sides equally. The equation has to be equal in the face of law and justice. So, of course, charging a sitting president with criminal conspiracy using RICO charges is just ridiculous. An ex-president for questioning a vote of a political election. Elections were made to be questioned in every aspect of it. Our founding fathers knew they would be questioned, and that's why they allowed it for a lot of questioning to happen. A lot of laws to be written, of course, and laws to be followed. You can't change laws without the legislative branch being involved. Many of these states that, of course, Trump questioned the vote in, the legislative branch did not change the law. You had the executive branch of their government, their mayors and their governor, change laws momentarily or instantaneously, if you put it that way, which of course is not good. And watching, of course, the Justice Department saying that their job is not to take orders from the president, from Congress, or from anyone else, but about who to and what to investigate. It's just ridiculous. That statement alone, coming from the Attorney General, is ridiculous. Investigate, they should take orders from everybody. They should investigate everybody. Of course, that a criminal possibility could have occurred. But charging people is another manner. If you can't investigate the president's son, Hunter Biden, and say, yes, he committed all these crimes, we're going to give him a plea deal and let him go off scot-free. Basically, that's what they tried to do until a judge called them out. I mean, this is ridiculous. They're prosecuting the lawyers of this country when Trump was in office, along with Trump, with these charges. Yet Hunter Biden's not even being charged himself. It's a real eye-opener for our Justice Department and what we live in. Venezuela is here, and it's here now. You don't see it? Got to open your eyes. Our debt ceiling is going to become astronomical. It's going to keep ballooning at this rate because now, after $35 trillion in debt, our interest payments are half of our debt, or half of our yearly income. Of course, that's just going to grow. Next year is probably going to be 2/3 of our yearly income. The year after that, our whole yearly income. We're just going to borrow money to pay the bills. And then what happens? Then we're borrowing money to pay the interest on the money we've already borrowed. Of course, that then escalates to over $100 trillion in the next 10 years. A country with $100 trillion of debt is bankrupt. There's no question about it. So watching the politicization of all this garbage between the left and the right, let's be honest, this isn't helping our country. Our country's in a bad enough shape without this political rivalry going on. Yeah, by committing more money. Money that's not even guaranteed yet. Of course, it probably won't get past the House and the Senate at this point. Because at this point, people are worried on the Ukraine crisis. Especially after what President Zelensky did at the Security Council today, lashing out at Russia, but avoiding a face-to-face encounter. It's a joke. Of course, Zelensky accused Russia of waging a criminal and unprovoked aggression that undermines the norms of war and the UN Charter this morning, and urging world leaders to strip Russia of its veto power. A little pawn player like Ukraine is trying to tell the world what to do. Nobody's questioning that. Ukrainian leader, of course, his proposal to end the 19-month-old war starts with an adherence to a charter that gives sovereignty and territorial integrity to his nation. Restoring Ukraine's territory is the key to peace, supposedly, to Zelensky. But yet, if we look back why this war started, we can go back all the way to 2014 when the U.S. decided to place their leader in charge of Ukraine. I don't care what you want to say, that's what we did with the CIA involved. We decided to put a democratic leader in charge. And ever since then, Ukraine's territory and aggressions towards its own people have been extremely corrupt. You can look at the Azov group yourself. I pulled it up and talked about it many times. But they have a blog that talks about their endless victories against Ukrainian citizens in the East, which is just sickening at this point. So watching Zelensky say that Russia is the problem, and Russia is a problem, I'm not going to say they're not, but the conflict that's happening in Ukraine needed to be addressed long before. Of course, Russia asked the UN to send peacekeepers in prior to them going into the country themselves. Nobody talks about that. Nobody wants the truth to come out. But as we look at this all unfold, supposedly Ukraine's winning this war, so why is Zelensky begging for the end? Well, Russian drone attacks, of course, and Lviv today sparked an inferno at a warehouse, killing at least one person, damaging multiple munitions depots within it. Ukraine said they intercepted most of the 20 drones overnight, but yet the drones that got through the air defense system managed to burn down the whole entire storage facility. And they want to say it's a charity's warehouse with relief supplies, but yet this was known as a weapons supply facility, a known weapons warehouse. So consequences before war are horrific. Let's just be honest. And the people suffer. And it's sad to watch humans' life being sacrificed for god-awful reasons. And to see what's happening in Ukraine, the amount of death and injuries, is tragic. But to say Ukraine's winning this war when Russia has 1 million people sitting ready to fight, and another 400,000 now promised by North Korea. I mean, top U.S. generals and officials are worried about the possibility of Russia and Iran cooperation and collusion at this point. The U.S. doesn't know what to do. Iran supplying bomb-carrying drones to Russia, or to Moscow, of course, helping the program in Iran becoming more lethal, raising the risk of wider Middle East force fighting in Israel. Watching this all unfold, our commanders are concerned because they don't think they can handle what could come out of this. Iran's extending its airspace over Syria now, watching the commercial shipments of waters in the Persian Gulf getting seized by Iran. Of course, we are seizing Iran's oil shipments as well, so it's just tit for tat at that point. This is getting worse. 20% of the world's oil passes through that strait. If Iran decides to take out or take over Syrian airspace between Russia and Iran, they could hold that port closed. That strait, that 20% of the world's oil, would go nowhere. Yeah, Iran gets $6 million to get 5 Americans back. Oh, wait, they got 5 of their people back too. It's ridiculous. We're facing a problem that's going to get worse as we go forward. And just looking at what's happening in our own country, we could turn around. The Auto Workers Union in Detroit, the standoff is a wider strike as looms right now as we speak. The standoff between these 3 big automotive manufacturers remain far apart negotiations. This is less than 40 hours before unions' deadline to make significant progress or escalate the strike with new work stoppages, which include all facilities within the United States. This would be devastating. This would be devastating. We're talking 140,000 people decide to stop working. Of course, they're demanding a 40% pay hike, and they will not back off from this. A 32-hour work week, 40% more pay. And of course, the end to a tiered wage structure that pays new workers less. All this demand can't happen. One way or another, somebody's got to give on this. As Ford, we looked at accounting with Ford and talked with them directly. Ford can't handle this. The major auto manufacturer, of course, the head of this negotiation, Ford, General Motors, of course, they can't handle it all. So this is a truly devastating situation at this point between Ford, General Motors, and Stellantis. I mean, all these companies have made offers now. Stellantis offered a contract offer for workers prepared to end the strike as workers prepared to expand their strike, denying the offer. And this is going to be huge. The impact, of course, of the assembly plant closures will have long-standing ramifications, not just days. You're talking delays in auto manufacturing for months. Of course, the assembly lines and these product lines are kept so close together that when a product is produced, all the pieces come together at the same time. So if you have all the major warehouses all shutting down and all these major manufacturing facilities, parts do not come at the same time. You end up shipping a whole bunch of vehicles to deserts, and car prices go up, and everybody suffers. This all unfolding in the U.S. So we don't have money. We don't have people that want to work because they're not getting paid a fair wage. So let's be honest, they weren't before. But now they want a wage that's exorbitant. Exorbitant wages. We can't afford anything else. The government's relaunching its free COVID site testing because we know what's happening with the COVID pandemic. It's coming back. They're going to re-release something, and the COVID's going to be terrible, and all this. As they relaunch the government COVID testing program, it's pretty obvious Of course, they got to do something to keep Americans in check, because if Americans open their eyes and start waking up, they realize that there's nothing left of our country. It's truly falling apart at its roots. We're seeing massive amounts of videos online and I support law enforcement. I support good law enforcement. But the amount of law enforcement now going directly against the Constitution and attacking people for just standing up for their rights, just simple rights at that. I mean, it's getting ridiculous. And that's what happens when, of course, we have this woke movement. A lot of great officers left the force. And it's happening with every department around our country. That's why the FBI needs to be abolished. CIA should be gone. Justice Department is a joke at this point. I mean, literally, people need to wake up. We need good cops back in the street. And I think we hire a lot of officers. Hire more than we need, because you're going to have to weed through the bad ones. But watching what's happening, it's just getting worse. It's just going to keep getting there. I'm sorry to say, but that's what it's facing at this point. But God bless you guys. God bless America. And of course, we thank you guys for being with us tonight. We'll be live again Friday at 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. Till then, be safe, be sound, and be prepared. Good night.